Hi, I'm Susan Cauley, and welcome to You're Not Alone Surviving Your Child's Disability. Increasing independence is an aspiring goal for disabled children and adults. For some, one way to meet this challenge is to own an assistance dog. So to discuss this option, our guest today is John Moon, Director of Client Programs and Community Engagement at NEEDS, Dogs for Deaf and Disabled Americans. And also, we have a special guest, NEEDS service dog, Rainbow. Hi, John. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Fine. I guess the first question that I want to ask you is, how did a disabled person become eligible for a service dog?
Sure. I will tell you that the NEEDS organization, we're located out in Princeton, Massachusetts. Someone really can go to the website and fill out an application for any one of a number of different kinds of dogs that we train. And by different kinds, I mean dogs that are going to be doing some kinds of task work for someone. We have dogs that are trained to work with children with autism. These are called social dogs. We have dogs also that are trained that are going to work with veterans that might be missing limbs or have post-traumatic stress. So the proper dog for anyone is kind of a very intricate matching process. We'd like to learn as much about the client, their lifestyle, their needs, what they'd like the dog to do for them, so that we can make sure that we match the right dog with the right circumstances that exist within that family.
Now, does the potential client get to actually pick out their dog, or is that something that you supply the dogs to them?
That's a good question. The client does not choose their dog. We actually choose the dog for them. Back up just a little bit.
Sure.
When we begin training the puppy at about 8 weeks of age, that training of these assistance dogs lasts for almost 18 months.
Wow.
Throughout that time, you have our trainers who are daily evaluating the progress of any of the assistance dogs in training in our string. And we have about 90 dogs in training at any one time.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is an awful lot, but the need is quite great, honestly, for our assistance dogs. So of all of the dogs that we train, even of those 90, you might find that about 50% of those dogs do not make it through the training program. They might fail or flunk out because of something called alert barking, or simply not liking to wear a cape on their back. We're not going to force a dog to do the work that it doesn't like to do.
Can you explain just for a couple of minutes, because we had talked about this before, but what is the significance of the cape on
the
the dog?
The cape actually lets the general public know that a dog with a cape on is a working dog, and that you and I should not simply walk up to it to say, hey, I'm going to go pet your dog. That cape kind of signifies to the general public that this dog is working for their partner, and that it might be doing work that you and I don't want to interrupt, because we don't know what the dog is doing for that person.
I see. That's interesting. So what is the process involved in acquiring a dog? I mean, outside of doing the application, what comes next?
The process really begins with that application process. The application is a one-dimensional piece of paper. You and I are multidimensional beings, so our client coordinator, Kathy Foreman, will follow up on that application, interview someone for perhaps an hour or two, going into some depth of each of those questions. And then Kathy will ask someone, if they're geographically close to us, to come visit us at NEEDS, because we'd like to see literally how does someone move. What is their voice inflection like? Does that child, is that child, can it verbalize to the dog its love, its request to sit or down? So we want to understand very, very much how someone moves and their voice and things. If someone can't come to visit us in Princeton, we'll use Skype to kind of view those same kinds of things over the internet.
Do you just cover basically Massachusetts, or do you cover nationally?
We cover nationally. Most of our clients, I would say, would be east of the Mississippi, but we do have clients from Oklahoma, Alaska, California, you name it, all across the United States.
Wow, that's impressive.
Well, we've been around for almost 40 years. We've been doing this for a long time, and I think we're very good at it. But I'll also tell people that even if they might apply to needs for an assistance dog, check out other organizations through Assistance Dog International. The thing that I often find is that as good as an organization as I believe us to be,
Yes.
someone who might be a client needs to listen to us. How do we interview them? How will we be training them? What does someone's intuition tell them about our organization? How do we answer the phone? What
Right.
kind of facilities do we happen
Right.
to have? Do we fit?
Wow. Now, speaking of which, what are the minimum standards of characteristics and behaviors that are required of a special service dog? I mean, what types of things do you look for in the dog that might possibly match someone that
Someone's
has,
needs, sure.
Specific needs?
Mm-hmm. We tend to look for, and this is again at the puppy stage, we tend to look for a dog that is confident. Even if we might drop an ash can lid on the ground and it startles the dog or that puppy, will that puppy kind of go back and say, hey, it scared me at first, but what is that thing? I want to go check it out. That means that the dog has got some positive confidence in itself, in its own emotions and things, its presence in the world. So we look for a dog at the puppy stage that's very stable, that is not going to be startled, and if it is startled, does it have the confidence to walk back to the thing that startled it, like an umbrella popping open, for example. And then we tend to look for how the dog performs, if you will, or is maturing every single day, every single month of its life. The dog's formal training is done inside of correctional facilities. So we have 10 correctional facilities here in Massachusetts.
Wow.
Where the inmates are carefully screened, but they're also doing a lot of that day-to-day kinds of training.
What actually do they do? I mean, and how old are the dogs when they actually go through this type of training?
They will be beginning at about 8 weeks of age. They will enter.
They will be that young. Huh?
Yes, they'll enter what we call our prison pup partnership. It is a partnership with the Department of Correction of Massachusetts. Again, carefully screened inmates are doing some of the day-to-day training of the dogs. Our trainers visit each correctional facility every single week. So between what the inmate handlers are seeing and what our trainers are seeing and observing and the records that they read from each handler, we get a very, very good idea of how stable the dog is, how willing it is to work, how energetic it might be, or not. And if the dog doesn't meet any of our criteria, we will wash it out of the program anywhere from 8 weeks of age until 18 months of age. If something happens, we can't have a dog that's not stable and confident in any situation where the dog might be found. So crowds, school settings, a concert on the commons, classroom where there's 101 children standing around that want to say hello to Rainbow.
Right.
These dogs need to be kind of nonplussed in any situation.
Did you want to talk a little bit about Rainbow?
Sure. Rainbow, you kind of wonder, I don't appear to have a disability, so why is Rainbow with me? Rainbow's with me because as a director of the organization, one of the directors, I am out constantly talking about what the dogs are capable of doing for someone with a disability. So whether it's a survivor from the Boston Marathon bombing that might want one of our dogs, a veteran, someone with hearing loss, a child or a family with a child with autism. These dogs are very specially trained and matched really with some families' particular needs. Rainbow originally worked with someone who lost his legs in Afghanistan.
Oh, that's sad.
It's very sad, and yet this gentleman used Rainbow to help balance because he was new to his prosthesis. So we used Rainbow to help balance as he walked down the street. But quite honestly, you talk to most people that have served in the military, it doesn't matter how badly they are hurt, you must help their buddy first. It's a great quality, selfless service that I don't see in the civilian population to the same degree.
Right.
It's quite an admirable quality.
Very much so.
So after he used Rainbow for 3 years, he asked us, please take her back, match her someone else from the military. I'm doing great on my legs. But at about 5 years of age, we figured that's about half of Rainbow's working life. And so my work with Rainbow is a lot easier than it was with this gentleman who lost his legs. So I adopted Rainbow so that when I do go out and speak about the organization, who's a better spokesperson, honestly, than Rainbow is?
She's a sweet dog.
She's sweet and she's patient and she's mellow.
Can you describe how much training is involved with the clients and with the dogs themselves?
Sure.
And what it exactly entails for them?
Sure. The dog's training lasts until about 18 months of age. And
So from 8 months to 18 months.
8 weeks
8 weeks to 18
to
months.
18 months.
Right.
And much of that time, probably the last 3 or 4 months or so, is helping the dog to mature. 12, 14 months of age in a dog is very much like an adolescent. I remember my adolescent years. I was not the best behaved child at all.
I can't believe that.
It's shocking. But the dogs are kind of in the same emotional place as well. So that training up to about 16, 17, 18 months of age is to solidify the task work that the dogs are capable of, but also getting their maturity up to a certain level so that when they do get matched with someone on our waiting list, that they are, again, stable, more mature, their task work is very, very good. And then
Do they get trained for a specific disability? And at what point, like at 14 months, they might, 14 to 18 months? Yes. Or do they wait until they have somebody that they are matched with before they get that training?
That's a great, great question. Honestly, because someone is not choosing their own assistance dog, our experience working with the dogs tells us what the dog's skills and capabilities happen to be. At that point, we then look at, the trainers are looking at the list of clients on our waiting list. So they're looking to see who is there, what is their challenge, and which dog in any of the string that is being trained, again, over 90 dogs being trained, which one has the potential to satisfy the needs of the individual and the family that that individual resides in. Do they like to fly or take the train or drive an awful lot? If the client drives a lot, we don't want a dog that's going to be either car sick or not stable inside the car.
Right.
So what is particular to you and to me as individuals or as a family member is very unique in how we match the right dog with your family and your living situation. So not all the dogs make it through the program. Not all of the dogs in training are good for you or any one of our clients.
Right.
But that understanding of what the dog's skills and talents happen to be, its temperament, reveals itself to our trainer over that training period. And then they use that knowledge to match the right dog with the right person on the client list. When that happens, we send the client a picture of their dog and invite them to spend 2 weeks on our campus training.
Now they
with us.
get training with the dog prior to going home.
Yes. We'd like them to spend a couple weeks with us. We have a fully accessible house that they can live in if they're using a wheelchair, for example. And they'll spend a couple weeks learning how to work with a working dog. Rainbow, as great a dog as she is not a pet. She is a working and very highly trained dog. That costs us about $25,000 to $35,000 to train over that 18-month process. So yes, we want to be very sure that the clients can work with the dogs. So that's why that 2-week training process on our campus is very important. It's tiring. There's a lot to learn. I've had pets, pet dogs my entire life, but I've never had to actually change the terminology that I use, for example, for her to sit or down. I would need to learn how to use those commands differently than maybe I have with my pet. You know we're talking
Rainbow,
about you?
we're talking about you.
You sit? Thank you. Thank you.
Why don't we take a break and see if we can get Rainbow to show us some of the things that she can do?
Excellent, love to.
That would be great.
That's excellent. So, as an example, of Rainbow doing what I call simple everyday tasks. Rainey, sit. If this was a wheelchair, and I could not reach a bottle of water over there, Rainey, fetch. Nope, water. Go ahead. Good girl. Oh, good. Closer. Give. Thanks very much. Not a difficult thing to do. Closer. Scoot closer. Closer. Good girl. I have her scoot a little bit closer. Okay, so she moves her fanny just a little bit closer. So if she was out of my range of motion, she could move her fanny a little bit closer so she could bring that, closer to me. Right?
I see.
You could do that.
Thank you, Rainbow.
Fetch. Okay, closer. Give. Hear her jaw kind of quivering a little bit?
Yeah.
She's trying to be very, very gentle with whatever she's holding. So she doesn't want to puncture the water bottle. She doesn't want to hurt anything that she's holding. And we like working with black and yellow labs an awful lot because Labradors are very food motivated. And so she's going to be going, wow, I do these tasks for food. I'm going to keep doing these tasks. So you saw her kind of pick up her leash a little bit. Fetch. Closer, closer, give, thank you. So she's just trying to bring these things a little bit closer to me. No problem. And she's going, hey, I get a reward, right?
Now, she get a reward for everything that she does?
I try not to do that with her. I also know that kind of given her lumpiness and mellowness, she gets kind of jacked up with food. So I know that this is what's going to kind of work to motivate her. By the same token, though, I cannot be rewarding her everything that she does throughout the day. She'd be much bigger. Right.
Huge.
Phone, fetch. Closer, closer. Give. Thanks very much. It's wet, but it works. So I'm not going to, reward her for every task that she tends to do because I need to cut back on her breakfast or her dinner to make sure their calorie intake. Listen. Because we want to make sure the dogs stay at the proper weight because they are literally jumping up onto a wall and nudging a light switch on with their nose. The heavier that she is, the more difficult that would be. So even I don't want to shorten her lifespan and things like that. So those are just, I'd say, some of the simple kinds of things that she can tend to do. Can get this one more time? Closer. Hold. Give. Thank you. So I asked her to hold on to it, just so she's holding on to it gently. Thank you, Rainbow. Very good. Can you shake? Thank you. This one. Thank you very much. Down. Thanks very much. Just stay right there. So those kinds of simple everyday tasks, the fact that she is very responsive, she sticks very, very close to me. This is what her training tells her. I go into the bathroom to have a shower, she's right outside that tub waiting. She is just a remarkably reliable, stable dog. So this is what a family, a client, I think would benefit from is someone that they can rely on to do the things that need to be done.
John, that was great. I'm glad that we get a chance to see what Rainbow can do. But I have another question for you. Can service dogs also be emotional support animals? And if not, what are the differences between those two types of dogs?
That's, again, an excellent question. I would say, to some degree, no. Because if you're calling a service dog, that is, by law, different than an emotional support dog.
Okay.
The laws are vague. The Americans with Disabilities Act, for example, says that if you have an assistance dog, that you could fly on a plane with your assistance dog or service dog. I use those assistance and service dog terminology interchangeably.
Okay.
If you had an emotional support dog, though,
right,
you could not fly on the plane with that dog.
That's interesting. You know what's the difference?
The difference is just what the law happens to say it is.
That's bizarre.
It is bizarre, because I would also look at a dog that works with a soldier with post-traumatic stress as providing an invaluable task for that individual, because we teach the men or women who have post-traumatic stress to take their cue about their environment from the dog. If that dog was with a soldier on a plane and it was for emotional support, theoretically the dog wouldn't be allowed to go on that plane with him. So how how is he able to utilize the dog to keep his emotions in check as he is sitting on that plane.
Right.
The laws are very strange. There's really three main laws that kind of govern access for an assistance dog, and they are somewhat at odds with each other. It's also very, very strange that the Americans with Disabilities Act, being a federal law, doesn't cover the federal government.
Okay.
So it's all
bizarre.
It's bizarre, but the one thing is that as a business owner, for example, if you saw Rainbow and me walking into your store, you could not deny me access to the store, even though you might be unsure of whether or not Rainbow was a pet or an assistance dog.
Okay.
You could not tell me not to come in with my dog, even if it was a grocery store.
Huh.
You could ask me what does my dog
But
do for me?
why do they do that then? I mean, like but you can basically tell the difference, though. I mean, an owner could tell the difference between
An owner could tell the difference between a pet and their assistance dog.
Right.
Yes.
And mainly it's because of the vest, I would think.
Yes, but that vest is not a requirement of assistance dogs by law. It doesn't. Honestly, it does. The laws are not very clear.
They're not clear cut.
No, they're not, and that makes it difficult for someone using an assistance dog. I've been stopped in front of many stores, right in front of the sign that says only assistance dogs allowed inside.
Right.
I have been stopped before entering that store many times. And sometimes it's simply cultural. The owner of that business may not be aware that assistance dogs are actually working dogs and that they're helping someone. But you also have a lot of owners these days that are purchasing capes on the internet for their pet so they can take them into a hotel or onto a plane.
Oh my goodness.
Which makes it more difficult for those that are legitimately using the dog.
Right. Wow.
So I'm not making things clearer for you.
No. You're getting more confused. Speaking of which, could you tell me the difference then between an assistance dog and a guide dog?
Yes, that I can do very easily.
Okay.
A guide dog is a more assertive kind of a personality. They are telling their partner what to do, what to watch out for, what might be of danger to them. So a guide dog, if you were blind and you wanted to move across the street, and you didn't hear, and you certainly couldn't see, but you didn't hear that Prius or that bike rider, but you told the dog to move forward, that guide dog would need to intelligently disobey your command because he heard or he saw that Prius or that bike rider, and he would need to stop you from moving across the street. Rainbow is not trained as an assistance dog to do guide work. So she has a different personality. She is not an assertive personality, as you can tell from her kind of sitting here very calmly and quietly.
Yeah.
A guide dog has got an assertive personality, and again, will be more willing to tell me what to do. An assistance dog is waiting for me to tell them what to do. So even though Rainbow's kind of kicked back here, she is waiting for me to ask her to do something. She is still in work mode.
That's very interesting. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people get confused over that difference.
It can be confusing. And Rainbow, as a puppy, came to us from a guide program called Guiding Eyes for the Blind. We purchased Rainbow from them because they have a breeding program. They did not view her as capable of being a guide dog. So we purchased her from them because we felt that she'd have the good personality to be an assistance dog.
That's great. Well, I think it's a great program anyway. There are a lot of people that really need service dogs, just to help them do various tasks around
their home. I mean, we've seen dogs be trained to go inside of a dryer to pull out clothing, fetch a remote from someone, the kinds of things that I tend to take for granted. But that's because I can use all of my limbs. That's not so for everyone.
Now, what happens if you have a pet or a pet dog already and you decide that you want to make him a service dog? Can you do that?
We would not do that at Needs, but there are organizations that do. And I think that my opinion really is that the need is so great out there. There's so many things where dogs can be of some help, that someone training their own dog could help fulfill some of that need. But there also is the stability question as well. How stable is that home-trained dog in public kinds of situations?
Right.
I'd say that people just need to be very, very cautious. As they're evaluating an individual to help them train their assistance dog, and even looking at an assistance dog program, like mine. There are about 100 of us in the United States that are accredited by Assistance Dogs International. And yet, again, people really need to feel that my organization or any organization fits them like a proper suit. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just fits right.
That makes sense. Speaking of pets, if you own a service dog, can you have another dog or like cats or something like other pets in the home besides the assistance dog?
We absolutely say that is okay. I came in the lobby of Needs a long time ago, maybe the past couple of years or so, and all these rabbits were running around in the lobby. And I'm thinking, are we training assistance rabbits now?
Right, assistance rabbits.
What we were actually doing is the 3 dogs that were in a downstay position in the lobby were all going to be going to homes where there were other animals in the house. So we wanted to make sure that the dogs would kind of look at that rabbit and go, it's a rabbit. Big deal. And they were fine. They were really quite good.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Now, the big question that we have is financially, what is the cost involved in acquiring a service dog?
Again, an excellent question. For members of the military and for survivors of the Boston Marathon, they are paying nothing for their dogs.
Wow.
We have,
excellent.
We're very fortunate to have a great number of very generous donors that are helping the veterans and they're helping the survivors from the Boston Marathon. For the civilians that we match a dog with, we ask them to help fundraise about $9,500. People, civilians if you will, do not always reach that target, and that's okay. I honestly don't mind if they don't reach it, if they do their best to try. There's a relationship here that is very, very important with this working dog, and I'd like our clients to recognize the importance of that relationship by putting out that effort. We have someone on campus who will help someone find their gifts. What is someone good at? Do they like to paint? Are they a good photographer? Do they have a local support system within their church, perhaps, that's strong? And so we have a woman named Ellen Jones who helps all of the clients figure out what are their skills and talents, what could they do, to help raise this money. But again, it's not so much the money that's raised to me as the commitment of having a working dog as part of their family.
Wow, that's great. I think that's very admirable. There aren't any other options as far as, like, for instance, if they weren't able to raise funds, are there any options for any type of financing?
Financial assistance?
Or financial assistance?
We, if you are on our website, or if you have a moment to go to needs.org, you'll find a listing of all the different clients that are there and what their unique circumstances happen to be. We have a lot of very generous donors who actually will sometimes choose a family or a child or someone waiting to be matched with their dog. They'll choose them and pay them off.
Wow.
Honestly. Sometimes anonymously, sometimes just out of the generosity of their own heart. But it does happen, pretty often that people are taken care of and the donations could be made. And we've been very lucky. I think that again, the clients are not always reaching that $9,500. Some actually exceed it, too. They're surprised themselves sometimes at what happens.
That's great, but it's a great service, and if they can raise the money, I think that's very admirable of them.
If they can't raise the money, it's not going to prevent them from getting a dog.
That's
the
great.
Most important thing for us, honestly, is what is the right dog for you. So even if you had interviewed yesterday, it might be that tomorrow a dog appears, is identified, but also could be 6 months. Our average waiting time is about 6-7 months or so for an assistance dog.
Wow.
But it is possible that you as a client, have a very unique set of circumstances that we need to be aware of in matching the right dog with you and your family situation.
Mm-hmm. Do you get to meet the family as well?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, and relatives surrounding them, like grandparents or anything like that?
If there are major
If
players
they're-
in that family, we would love to have everyone be able to come to campus. It is possible that there is an in-law, for example, and someone is living there, but the main family lives in a house a few steps away or through a separate door. We would need to learn those kinds of things about that family setup, so that all the training was, all the people were informed about how to work with that dog.
Right.
Again, grandparents kind of not always kind of rushing to say hello to the dog and things like that. Well, I've done the same thing as a civilian, if you will, before I ever worked at Needs.
I see people all the time
Right.
wanting to say hi to assistance dogs.
Sure.
I have one more question because we're running out of time. Do service animals require updated training from time to time, or is that something that is usually scheduled by the owner?
We will stay in touch with all of our clients. They really become part of our family.
Mm-hmm.
And so when there are challenges that someone might be having with their assistance dog, we'd like them to contact us about maybe how to correct something that might be going on with the dog.
Mm-hmm.
And we will help work with them to figure out the right way to correct that. We have had clients that think that they're correcting a problem, but they're actually reinforcing that problem by the things that they're doing.
I see.
People oftentimes, and I put myself in the same category, I don't know what I don't know about training an assistance dog. And so can we be of some help? Absolutely we can, and we would like to be for someone. Is there ongoing retraining that takes place? When someone requests it, absolutely. We will help retrain them. And we'll bring them back to Needs so they can spend some time on campus working these things through.
Great. Well, thank you very much, John.
It's a real pleasure.
Rainbow, for being on our show today.
No problem.
And I hope you have enjoyed our discussion on assistance dogs and perhaps even consider the possibility of owning one for either yourself or a disabled child or adult. See you next time on You're Not Alone Surviving Your Child's Disability.